Welcome to "'Tis the Soundtrack", the channel dedicated to digging deep and bringing you the merriest of music all year long. For this inaugural video, I'm reaching back to one of my earliest Christmas memories, the Disney's Christmas Favorites album, my OG Christmas soundtrack. Originally released in 1979, this album was a fixture throughout my childhood. It lived year-round on the LP shelf at the bottom of my parents' stereo system, surfacing twice a year. First, on the evening we decorated the tree, then again on Christmas Day. After that, and having fulfilled its annual obligation, it would retire back to its home to sleep until it was called up to duty the following year. As a child, I didn't particularly like this album. My kid brain could not reconcile why someone would go through all the effort of featuring Mickey and the gang on the cover, blasting down the hill on a sled, but not have the decency to ask any of them to sing. Not a single character appears on this album, not so much as an interlude, nothing. It would be like putting on the Urban Chipmunk album, which came out around the same time, only to find that instead of Alvin and the crew, you just strapped into 45 minutes of Ronnie Millsap.
Our paths may never cross again.
Not the worst thing in the world, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a grade schooler excited about that trade-off. So, if not the classic Disney characters implied by the artwork, what was on the album? Well, it was packed with 13 of the most classic of Christmas tunes. White Christmas, Frosty, Rudolph, Jingle Bells, you know the drill. And all performed by either Larry Groce, the Disneyland Children's Sing-Along Chorus, sometimes accompanying Larry, or the Mike Sam Singers. Now these are all names that meant very little to a 5-year-old me, whose musical knowledge both started and ended with the Beach Boys. An early fascination I attribute directly to another Disney creation of the time, The Flight of the Navigator.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah.
While that level of musical naivety might be excusable for a 5-year-old past me, I'm a bit embarrassed to say that 40-something-year-old present me still had no working knowledge of either Larry Groce or the Mike Sam Singers until I started researching for this video. Turns out, they're both extremely talented, highly prolific artists with interesting histories. For those of you just as clueless as I was, here is just a taste of their accomplishments. Larry Groce has a resume including recording a total of 9 albums for Disney, 5 of which going platinum. He also co-founded Mountain Stage, a 2-hour nationally syndicated music program that he hosted for its first 38 years. And Mountain Stage has its own important place in music history, being the first national exposure for many artists who have gone on to be quite famous. Names you might recognize like Lyle Lovett, Sheryl Crow, Alison Krauss, Fish, Tori Amos, the Avett Brothers, the list goes on and on. Oh, and Larry also had his own one-hit wonder in 1976, Junk Food Junkie, which spent an impressive 15 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 9.
I love that organic cooking. I always ask for more. And they call me Mr. Natural. On down to the health food store.
Equally impressive are the Mike Sam Singers, whose careers spanned the late 1950s to the late 1980s and included everything from radio jingles to soundtracks to television theme songs and a whole slew of Disney records themselves. They also featured on hit songs from the likes of Tom Jones, Olivia Newton-John, and even the Beatles. That's right, that's the Mike Sam Singers you're hearing providing all the background chanting on I Am the Walrus. I could go on and on about both these talented performers, but we've strayed pretty far off course and need to start bringing it back in. After a deep dive like this, you might be expecting me to put the proverbial bow on this video by talking about how much I've come to love and admire this album over the years. Unfortunately, reality rarely ends like a Hallmark movie, and unless your name is David Nader, nor does it feature as much Lacey Chabert. So 30-some years later, and I still don't love this album. Don't get me wrong, the tracks are all well done, if maybe a bit sterile, but when it comes right down to it, if I'm in the mood for White Christmas, I'm probably reaching for Bing, not Larry. The same goes for Rudolph, except substitute Gene Autry and Mike Sam's accordingly. That, or I'm putting on some indie hipster nonsense from the early 10s. Sorry. But that's the thing about nostalgia, right? It's not so much about liking something, it's how that thing makes you feel. And hearing these songs, seeing the album art, heck, just thinking about it evokes some of my clearest childhood Christmas memories. Like sitting on the living room floor, meticulously deciding where each and every ornament would be placed once the lights are strung on the tree. or the mad dash descent down the stairs Christmas morning to see if Santa had finally brought the Teddy Ruxpin I'd been coveting. And, after being let down a couple years in a row, finding not only Teddy, but a Diplodocus Dino rider waiting for me under the tree. Best Christmas ever. It makes me wonder if 30 years from now, my own kids will hear Kelly Clarkson on some oldie station and have the same immediate nostalgia for our holiday traditions as I have etched into my soul by the pops and cracks of the vinyl spinning up while Larry Groce starts in to White Christmas. Thank you for coming along with me today as we explored Disney's Christmas favorites. Thank you for watching 'Tis the Soundtrack. Cheers and Merry Christmas.